I think we also should give a round of applause to AGBU and Shaula International for the marvelous work that we just saw extracts of before we continue on this panel. So. I think it was a great introduction to this afternoon and to create a context. So as part of just complementing the context mission here, and before we go into our questions about what does it mean to have cooperation that can boost the art economy, I would like to show you this. This is a sculpture by Kochan that you can see in the Mergelian Institute garden, and it's called the Cybernetic Muse. And Natalia, if you want to come a little bit like this so you can see it too. This sculpture was done in 1972. And for me, this is an artwork that always moves me because it shows how artists are our guides into jumping into the future, leaping into the future. When Kochan did this sculpture, and that has all these mechanical cybernetics mixed with the human body, we didn't yet have operation of pacemakers, artificial limbs, hips and knees. On one hand, you see the sculpture is a man, on the other hand, it's a woman. All the environmental aspects, you can read a million things in this sculpture that is so actual today as well. But none of this existed at the time he did this sculpture. So we can all understand that in an era now where the longest living company is no longer 65 or 100-year-old, but it's by cycles of 15-year-old. So whatever company we create, we have to already be our own disruptor and create the next. That means the skill we have to develop is the skill of vision. And what better input than the input of the arts. So I would like to, just a second, I wanted to also show you some, I looked at the research that AGBU did, and I want to share some of their research results here. So the art industry is also related to as the creative culture industry. And something that you don't name and you don't measure usually goes under the radar. But fortunately, in the last few years, now the art industry, but also creative culture industry, is no longer under the radar, is right in the spotlight. So one definition I want to read to you is 2 lines. It's about activities which have their origin in individual creativity, so all of you here are right in the middle of this. Their creativity, skill, and talent that engage financially with intellectual property. And they apply to 11 different domains. And I'll just go very quickly. So there's in advertising, architecture, book industry, gaming, music, movie, newspapers and magazine, online, offline, performing arts, radio, TV, visual arts. So you can all, as soon as you hear this, say yes, of course. But now we have a way of measuring this. And I'm going to give you some figures that really amazed me. So this creative industry, all of you around the world, you have created in United States a wealth of $620 billion and created 4.7 million jobs. In Europe, $709 billion, 7.7 million jobs. In Asian Pacific countries, a wealth of $743 billion, 12.7 million jobs. So this is actually the highest. And in Latin America, $124 billion and 1.9 million jobs. In Africa, $58 billion and 2.4 million jobs. So you understand now that we are sitting on a huge movement that is starting to leave traces, starting to be measured, and we all have a role in this to do. And I hope our panelists are going to show us how we can cooperate for that. And I want also to show you this quote that is from the Singapore Prime Minister, who succeeded to the very famous Lee Kuan Yew, who transformed Singapore completely and put Singapore on the map. And so their approach, the quote is, if you want the economy to flourish, you need more entrepreneurs, you need more creativity. So you must also look at the arts. So we are entering the creative economy. The two must go together. I think this is a very nicely put in 2 sentences of how we are now invited to invent the future of Armenia. So I would like to, I have prepared questions for our panelists that are actually, I think, hard questions, but you're the best to answer them. So I have 4 questions, and after that, I'll open the floor to all of you to continue the questions. Question number 1, so that we can see how we can create an ecosystem of collaboration. You each come from different backgrounds, and I would like you to take a short round, not necessarily to introduce yourself, but your organization, and tell us how is it that your organization is an active agent in creating this art economy. So let's start with Lilia and the microphone.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So I'm representing AGBU, and I'm the outreach director of AGBU Armenia. When we talk about how does AGBU create value in art, or how does AGBU contribute to art, right?
And collaborate.
And collaboration. I'll just take 2 minutes to take you back a bit to the background of the organization, because it was founded in 1906. So it's one of the oldest Armenian nonprofit organizations with a huge global presence. We are headquartered in New York, and AGBU in Armenia also has a large representation. When it comes to how has AGBU actually contributed to art or to culture, it has done through a number of ways. One of them is that if we look at Armenia specifically, because we are talking about the ecosystem, the culture, art ecosystem in Armenia, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, for example, AGBU jumped in because we understood that in order to be able to preserve and to contribute to the development of a country, art and culture is a very important part of it. So AGBU for over 20 years, 25 years actually funded, for example, the Philharmonic Orchestra. So we ensured that although the country was in a very challenging situation, we could make sure that there was a continuity in the art and the culture. A bit fast forward, in the past years, also having Anna Gargarian as head of our exhibitions in Armenia, AGBU has very much supported having exhibitions of new artists, contemporary artists, providing them our gallery so that they can have a space to expose their work, and also inviting people, the public actually, and helping the public to educate, what does it mean to have a contemporary art. And when it comes to how do we create the value by facilitating the cooperation, I think we'll come back to that, I think, in further conversation, but I just want to highlight having the presence all around the world, and also in Armenia, AGBU plays an important role in creating this connection between Armenia and Armenians around the world, but also through Armenians present around the world, we can access the cultural institutions in those countries, but also culturally engaged individuals in those countries. So I'll just pose it.
Thank you. Israel?
Yes. I believe, as you mentioned, collaboration is the key. And I think the key event started in Armenia already, which is the art fair. I believe art fair is the key for several reasons. Because artists themselves cannot participate in art fairs. That's a platform for galleries. In order for galleries to find artists, to discover artists, we can work on that part. Invite as many galleries that we can so they can discover Armenian artists here. And then Armenian artists can participate in other art fairs. And it's great you mentioned Singapore, because I'm planning to to participate in Singapore Fair next year with Armenian artists, of course. I met 2 successful artists who were sold out 3 times in Singapore Art Fair. It really works. He's not just talking, he's doing things.
But it's also because Singapore, as a country, has the vision that the future is the merge of arts in every domain.
Yes, yes, and the role of government is also important, cooperating. I think what government, at least Ministry of Culture, can do, they can sponsor galleries to go to art fairs, at least. If they can do anything else, at least that's what they can do. Because we're talking about creating market, right? First of all, there is no such thing as Armenian art market. Art has no borders. When we say Armenian art, I think of manuscripts. Other than that, it's just art, done by Armenian painters, by Armenian artists. That's why we need to expand. The success of our artists is not necessary here, it's everywhere. That's why I mentioned yesterday the embassies, the consulates, that they should have cultural attachés. They should work outside of Armenia to expand the culture, to expand the arts. And I believe art fair is a key model.
Israel, about your particular expertise that still does not exist in Armenia, how do you see that engaging the cooperation?
Yes, I already started working. Actually, I'm not going to start. I started, and very I think Hasmik is already a future appraiser in Armenia. Sarkis is one, and many others that can come. And it's not very easy, but it's not difficult to have that here. All we have to do, prepare 4 appraisers that we can then go to the government agencies and tell them that government has the appraisal and authentication has to be separated. Independent. They have to be independent. Government still can have some role, but at least experts should be, as Aramons mentioned, internationally qualified experts. Not that just government decided that these people are good. They have to be internationally qualified experts. And my role, as I said, as Lilia said about my company, Bravado Fine Arts and Appraisal Services, we not only provide appraisal services, we represent artists, and it's an online gallery. We talked about online galleries a lot, even though I have a space, but I call myself an online gallery, and we work through ArtNet, which is a very good source, and I suggest Armenian galleries also to work through ArtNet. ArtNet is an online platform. Instead of having a website, which you have to spend millions of dollars for your website to be known, ArtNet is a platform that has 10 million subscribers already. You pay them monthly fee, but they create your gallery in their platform. And that's how dealers and galleries discover artists, also through ArtNet. I believe there are so many components, but if we work hard, we can put them together and we can have success. Also, another important thing, talking to families, Kochar families here, Saryans was a few hours ago. Families, the role of families still not recognized in Armenia. I think that's also part of government, attorneys, governmental agencies, CPAs, they have to have some kind of, what do you call it, platform or laws that anything has to go through the families. Also, families struggle, they don't know how to make a formal decisions. Maybe we can create a group that it can go through our group, then we can collaborate with families, kind of like a middleman.
Everybody's taking notes because
Yeah.
we're going to work
Yeah.
on that.
Yes, it can be. We can be a middleman kind of between
Wonderful.
families and people who want to authenticate their artworks because they don't know. Can they charge? Of course they can, but there are guidelines. You cannot charge percentage. It has to be a set fee.
Yes.
And for the services, all those things can be done by that intermediary
It's
agency.
obvious that the person who authenticates the piece of art cannot work with a percentage because then you will be invested in giving a very high price. It has to be just
Yes.
a flat fee.
Yes, even if you're honest, that's the law.
That's the law.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
law. That it has to be. I can charge for my work. Nothing can. Even if it's not Saryan, turns out it's not Saryan, I cannot say here is your money.
Right.
It's for my services.
So you can actually
Yeah.
help the small museums, family museums, preserve the process of authentication because you're an appraiser and you can actually go back to them and have real data to substantiate what you do.
Yes, but they have a key role. That's why they need to be recognized. Also, when you talk to all dealers,
Yes.
they also have stories that okay, families are also not honest. There is talks, but you know what? We have to make sure have it formally done, so there is no question about it. That they know if they contact us, if we say the family said it's Kochar, no question about it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we already see a very positive loop of collaborations, and we'll add to this as we move along, between the appraiser, the family, small museums,
Estates.
the international presence of Armenians through organizations that promote the propagation of the culture and the nurturing. So now I would like to move on to you, Alessia.
Yeah.
And
I think
build on
also my background was always cooperation because I started to study economics, so one field, and then after I ended up to work in a museum of contemporary art in Vienna, which is not, you think, in economics is difficult to work there. But I think I always try to match from one side the economics perspective and the other side the art field. Just to say I started in this way, and it was not so common in 2005, this kind of cooperation. Now,
was it the first time there was such an attempt, what you did?
it was not common. I mean, from my background, it was very difficult to work in a museum because usually work in a museum, a curator, a restorer, so it's a different background. And even the museum director was an example of a mix of different perspectives, because it was he has a degree in art history, but even in art management and a specialization in law. So a different, a particular profile. Also now, if you compare with the background of a museum director, only few have this different side. Just to say,
when you say different side as a museum director, are you thinking of combining the world of the arts and the
exactly.
personal wealth or
No,
business?
combining the world of the art, the curator side, and the
Yes.
other side, the management, the economic.
The economic.
Is
Okay.
really, I mean, there are a few museum director, but there are not so many. Is still a matter to be addressed. Also, if I think is important because you have both skills. One in terms of artistic vision, innovation, curatorial, but the other side you should have also a manager. You should need a manager and entrepreneur. So it's really difficult to have a dialogue between.
So, Alessia, could we imagine in the near future to organize a special training for museum directors?
I think, also also in Italy, it's not easy, at least in the academics,
Yes.
to have a course about art market, museum management, especially, let's say, art market. Why? Because, for instance, for an artist, career is important to produce, so to express his creativity, but on the other side, you should know at least how the system works, because you will work there, you will present there the work. You will not be your job to work to represent yourself, but at least you know how the system is organized, and you make sense of how to deal, who are the important player, how the market works. So I think it is a way to know in which environment are you working, and it's not so common.
So, Alessia, just to sum it up before we go to Natalia, can you give us what are the main services that your company
Yes.
gives and that actually is based on this tight collaboration?
Also, I think also this work, I work in a law and fiscal firm, and I think also this work is a perfect example of collaboration, just because I'm not a lawyer. So, and it's strange that you work in a law firm, but when decided to create a new department, because is a big law firm with many practice, and they decided to create an art law department in order to deal with the different aspects related to art. And they decided to take two different experts, one from the legal side, art law, and the other from the economic side, just to have a dialogue with the important issue related to the management, to the preservation, and especially to the law and fiscal aspect of work of art. So I think is an example of collaboration, and is not so common. Just to say is, there are other art law department. I am thinking about Italy, but really few. But with this double perspective, no one. So it's
Thank you.
Yes.
This is important because actually each time you have an emerging field, if you wanted to boom in the field of the economy and finances, you always need the law. For example, in technology, now technology evolves very, very fast. But for each new invention, you need a set of laws. So now universities like Harvard and MIT have merged their efforts, and they have created a law degree in technology. Yeah. So each time you want a field to evolve, you need to regulate. So that's something to think for us in Armenia, how we could start embedding law and arts in our educational and business schools, etc. Right?
Also, I was thinking as a brainstorming that we talked before, and we will talk now about the role of technology, the role of creativity. Creativity is at the core of the creative sector, and is the content of the idea of art, and think about how the part related to intellectual property would be more and more important, because it's the core of the sector, and it's the main asset to protect. Sometimes also art is dematerialized now.
Yes.
So this field related to law and the protection of intellectual property right would be more and more not a niche market, but not say a mainstream, but the topic.
Thank you, Alessia. Natalia, tell us, you're actually a good example of the artist entrepreneurship and creating a new economy with your new company, Currency. So tell us how you actually collaborate with the existing structures as an innovator.
Yeah, well, our goal is to work within the existing structures to create something new, which has been kind of difficult, as you mentioned, because of laws and regulations, because there's a lot of laws around digital currencies. And so that's why we don't actually have cryptocurrency. We are not a currency. We are a token system, and it's you can't. Originally, when we had the idea, we wanted it that the artists could just cash out their earnings at any time. We learned a lot about regulations. I had to read a lot of regulations because there's so many things of you can't pay people a certain amount of money within a certain day, money laundering issues. So there's a lot of stuff with sending money on the internet, receiving money, making sure that you know the identity of the person that you're sending the money to. So we had just had this idea. We didn't know anything about this, and now I'm like I know a lot about this. But so collaborating. We don't want to break any laws. That's our goal. We're trying to, that's not actually the startup culture in the U.S. The startup culture in the U.S. is Mark Zuckerberg's famous quote is "Move fast and break things." Which he did.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Move fast and break things?
Yes, so the startup culture in the US is very much just do it and then deal with the legal aspects after, which you can do if you have...
It looks like Alessia is not agreeing.
I also don't agree with it because that's where you get a lot of issues where, Uber destroyed the taxi industry, Airbnb destroyed the hotel industry. It's great that we're making these new companies. A lot of people are making a lot of money, but they're not talking about all the people that are losing their livelihoods, their jobs. So you don't want to move that fast and break things, which Mark Zuckerberg, they've now changed their motto. They don't say that anymore because now they're the establishment. Facebook is the main thing, right? So they used to be the new stuff, but now they own everything. So we're new now. We're nobodies technically. We're very small, 5,000 people, but it's a pretty strong, growing community. And we're trying to not break any rules. So collaborating within the existing structures, we use Facebook for our advertising, but also our main goal with our project is to encourage people to collaborate on the platform because, if you're a filmmaker, you need music for your film. Where do you get the music? If you are a writer of screenplays, you want to have people make your movies. So artists work together and they can also meet each other on our platform, work together. We also, as a platform, we hire artists to make, when we first started, we had our How It Works was made entirely of GIFs. We hired a New York artist to do that. So we're trying to make opportunities for artists to work within our structure. And
so what you're saying is that the best way to learn cooperation, which is the focus of every industry, actually artists have already an expertise in that field because they are by nature very 100%. Collaborative.
Yes, they're all working together. They're making collectives, underground collectives. And so there's one, a really popular one on our site called Felt Zine. And it's a very strange net art stuff. I love it, but it's the image of the weird alien stuff that you saw earlier. So, and he does pop-up things in New York, San Francisco, LA all the time. And these are game artists. It's all virtual reality, and then they make still images together. They're all working together, so it's and it is international too. So
thank you, Fabio. Tell us a little bit about Shaula International. Just by the name, we know you are an expert in collaboration, but can you open up a little bit on this thing? Yes.
So sure. So Shaula International is an Armenian company, and the aim is to create intercultural exchange between Armenia and mainly Europe, and we hope that through culture we will expand this Europe to world. The idea of the company started because we realized that there was a big lack of information, so a gap to fill, And our experience after a few years working in Armenia brought us to understand that this gap more and more was in several different sectors as well in the country. And culture and art is definitely one sector that we believe needs to be developed more. And I think what all my co-panelists have mentioned until now gives us even more the idea of what needs to be done. So hence we started with this project, ICA 2018, which was for us the first step in, let's say, enhancing and promoting Armenia as a cultural and artistic hub. And I believe that our job is way easier than yours, because working in an existing, let's say, infrastructure, it's always more difficult to find your way. But here there is a lot to do. So we are, and I'm trying to remember yesterday, actually you mentioned, no, we are in a desert. So we have a lot to do. We are actually, in May, we were lucky to be here when the art fair inaugurated. And we believe that that is another very important milestone, as Israel was saying. And we believe there has to be a very important cooperation between an international exhibition and an art fair in that sense. The two initiatives have to work parallelly together. And just, I see you getting there. No, and just another important tool of, let's say, the whole concept is the business in art, which brought us here today in cooperation with, in partnership with AGBU, and brought us here as well last week when we did the first conference under the brand Business in Art for cultural heritage. Because the main point why we believe that we can work together and bring more and more experts from all over the world to Armenia is because Armenia has the base. And we need to follow international examples. France and Italy 56 years ago, and we have a very recent example. Well, we mentioned Singapore, but let's don't forget Dubai. And Dubai built it without no base. Armenia has a very strong base.
Yes. When we were referring of the desert, it was in terms of the infrastructure.
Yes, sorry, I forgot the word.
Yes, because we have lots of wealth that is still undiscovered by the world. But thank you for making that actually happen. My second question, which you touched a little bit, Fabio, is what are the needed conditions and tools for arts to grow as a very thriving agent, a catalyst for business and prosperity? What are the geopolitical barriers that we have to go through, or any other conditions that exist now that we should alter? So before I come back to you, Fabio, you touched a bit. I would like to go to Lilia. So how do you create the fact of, what decisions, tools, changes, procedures we should have so that art really can become the catalyst of our economy?
So I think if you look at art, you can look at art just like any other industry, right? For each industry to thrive, like you need an ecosystem. And an ecosystem consists of different components. So I think one that is very familiar to many of you and has been discussed recently very elaborately is the startup ecosystem. In the startup ecosystem, we say, for example, you need to have the academia, because in academia there's a lot of research being done, there's like the intellectual property that is coming out of it. Then another component of the ecosystem is, for example, you need investors, so you need money. You need people that are wanting to invest in order to make these innovations or inventions to turn them into businesses. You need to have entrepreneurs, who are the people actually taking the ideas from academia, taking the funding and setting it up to create value. And then you also need, large corporations, or you need collaborations from the government to be able to set the governance system to facilitate the thriving of this ecosystem for it to grow. When we translate this to the art, I think it applies very similarly. And I think the past 2 days has been, again, after the International Contemporary Art Exhibition, bringing all these different artists to Armenia, but also the past 2 days having representatives of this ecosystem from around the world coming to Armenia and talking about like what you need to be able to drive the art market in Armenia. So we learned that you need the galleries in order to have the primary market start generating the primary market. You need the auction, to cater towards the needs of the secondary market. We obviously need the regulation. So if we want Armenia to be more thriving, maybe you should start thinking of creating economically or from a business perspective favorable conditions. So you can think of the tax system, you can think of giving tax exempts to cultural organizations or to galleries, right? To attract them to Armenia. You need the preservation part, because I think like Fabio said and Jacqueline was referring to, Armenia has a very rich cultural heritage, and I think AGBU has also played an important role in making sure that we preserve and promote that cultural component. We are supporting also Matenadaran, which is from a cultural perspective also a huge wealth of Armenia. You also obviously need to bring in your buyers, your customers to Armenia, right? Because it's a small country and we have limited buying power in Armenia, but if you try to create Armenia to be the hub, the cultural hub, then you can attract people. But that also means that you need, from an infrastructure point of view, maybe better connections, in the airline system. So I think when you talk about that, I see that we have to look at it from an ecosystem perspective. And you can't neglect, it's almost like a chicken and egg situation. You ask always the question, where do you start? But I think in the case of Armenia, we probably can rely on the fact that we do have a culture heritage, and we have people that appreciate culture and value culture, but we need to start thinking, how do we bring that culture from a historic perspective to modernize it, to innovate it, so that it also continues to serve in the future.
And in a way to get out of the the past into who are the active agents today, so who is our creative force. And I feel that we don't have the infrastructure to highlight our agents of change, or all the people who have been coming to this event for the last 2 days, who have lots to say. They carry their heritage with them, but they also have a lot of new formulation of meaning for the world. And what I would like to zoom on is what kind of tools we should give to our new generation of active agents in the field of the arts, so that they can help us create a prosperous business. I know business sounds like let's say a prosperous industry, I prefer, because I think business has a wrong connotation. So what would you give to the new generation as this infrastructure of tools and procedures so that they can be active?
So again, like taking from the HBU's perspective, we are a non-governmental, non-profit organization. Again, if you look at the ecosystem, the government has a role to play, the artists have a role to play. We obviously ask ourselves, like, what's the role of AGBU in nurturing and in enhancing this culture? And we conducted that research on creative cultural industries. And I think what we identified is that you need to create also the physical hub, to create a space where you can actually provide the opportunity to upcoming artists to experiment and start creating new things. And then also at the same time, I think creation is a good place to begin, but I think art exhibitions, the exposure part is also very important, because by creating this exchange where some people create and people come and consume it, if we put it in very commercial terms, that also kind of accelerates the process of developing and innovating and growing. So I think from AGBU's perspective, we have always tried to make sure that the culture and art gets the space and attention, even if maybe it's not established, but also making sure that we are forward-looking and we are contributing to keep it evolving.
Any of you would like to add to what Lilia just said? in terms of what we need to,
Yeah, I
to
can,
create.
before everybody else says
Yes, please.
No, I completely agree with everything that Lilia mentioned, and I guess it should start anyways from promotion as well. Promotion, not only promotion in the country, mostly promotion outside of the country, but when we say promotion in the country is to increase the awareness in Armenia, starting from the education level, of how important culture is, you know, as well as becoming a catalyst for the economy. The figures you've mentioned are impressive.
Yes,
and this is...
They're surprising, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty impressive. So this is very important. So definitely the whole ecosystem, as we said, starting from the ruling of the government, the foundations, the NGOs, and the people of the country should put a lot more of attention to how important, you know, this is. Infrastructure-wise, well, this is one of the reasons why we are here today, I guess, because we can get a lot of help from international experts that are coming here, because they can, you know, each and one of them support us and you know, teach us how it has been done already and what are the steps that need to be taken in Armenia. And of course, I believe that regulation should be in place. We have a lot of gaps in regulation here, starting from the tax code and throughout the whole aspects of, I guess that, I remember when we first spoke with the organizer of the art fair as well, they were having a lot of issues. So this needs to be addressed, absolutely.
So we could learn from all the experts in the field who have already gone through the steps of making something happen in Armenia, to have a list of things to secure so that it happens more smoothly the next time and the next time, etc. So we can pass on our experience in working together.
Yes, absolutely. And I would like to say that when I mentioned the desert and infrastructure, of course we compare it to countries, as I said, such as Italy, France, that have been doing this for 50, 60 years.
Yes.
There are a lot of things that are actually already in place, and I mean there are several players in Armenia that are doing, you know, fantastic initiatives. I mean, Anna is one of them that, on her own as well, through her own initiative, she's trying to, you know, push this further. But we need to raise the standards as well. And I think promotion and awareness of Armenia as a country in general is critical. They shipped something for me the other day from UK, and it's in Argentina. It means that, you know, someone was reading R and probably automatically said Argentina. So it's, you know, it will not happen with France. If you ship it to France, it arrives to France. You know, there is no. So we need to promote more the country. The experience we had with all these international artists, obviously, they all had no idea about the country. Most of them were asking questions, is it dangerous, is there a war, what about the genocide, because this is what a lot of people still have in their mind. So the country, the system, the foundations, the government, they should really focus more on education, culture, and of course tourism, because tourism is a direct consequence of having more international exhibitions, having more focus on culture, on festivals, and of these kind of events, which I'm sure all our panelists as well, who is not Armenian, has discovered Armenia for the first time.
You know, I just thought of a parallel with the development of knowledge economy. One of the major factors was to make sure that scientists and young scholars study in all places of the world and bring that knowledge in their own culture. And I think Armenia actually had a very sort of avant-garde vision when they created the Lewis Foundation, because it was about creating a brain circulation. But I think as we're entering the creativity era, the creative economy, Maybe we should think in terms of our collaboration as a creativity circulation, because also you need to feed your energy, your other visions of the world that you bring into your own work, your creativity. So maybe we can also think of this creative industry as a, creative circulation. So it could go to Argentina as long as it comes to Armenia at some point.
I'm waiting.
We have a lot of Armenians in Argentina too.
No problem. No, but another important thing what you said of this exchange of culture. For example, I'm a huge fan of probably one of my favorite initiatives in Armenia, that you learn chess at school, which I find it an amazing thing. We learn ancient Greek, which I think in a way both of them are, helping us in whatever else in the future of our lives. But chess, I think, is a very important thing. It's one of these aspects that Armenia could export as a very important tool for young kids to study. Because chess gives you that short-term vision and consequence, and long-term vision. It's an extremely interesting thing.
I would like to jump to our... Did you want to add something, Natalia, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to...
Okay.
Just quickly, I'm not sure. I'm sure that there's something going on with incubators here, or
yes.
So
it's very active.
Okay, so great. That's one thing to get the tech scene, but also to maybe mixers that get the art student with the tech students, because
yes.
the art students have great ideas and they don't have any tech friends. I mean, sometimes they do, but I didn't have any developer friends. So we had this idea, and instead of just being able to do it, we had to go all around the world trying to find developers. And it's much easier if you are connected with them. So kind of those kind of mixers. The other thing, you mentioned festivals, but I'm not sure if you meant it in this way. The biggest art things going on right now in the US are festivals like Burning Man, Lightning in a Bottle. I don't know if there's any possibility to make a festival like that here in Armenia. That would be pretty awesome. And people would come from all over the world to go to it. So just something to think about.
Isn't it very costly though to participate in Burning Man?
Yeah, the tickets are like $400 something, but you need to bring everything in. Burning Man is a specific kind of like a new economy, like a gift economy. So you can't buy anything there. You have to bring all your food, or you have to find someone to give you food for a gift that you give them. So yeah, it is super popular. So possibilities for something like that here, maybe.
Yes.
So I was just thinking about what are the conditions for collaboration and creativity to flourish. I was thinking about certain kind of value, and we come back about education, because there are certain kind of value where creativity happens in a better way. I'm thinking about a culture of openness, so freedom of expression, research, so the concept of freedom. Also, we think about that art sometimes, especially contemporary art, is not always good, but it brings controversy, so open to tolerance, so other aspect where an art ecosystem can flourish. Of course, innovation, but I mean, a certain kind of value is you can find in society, you can find first in family, but you can find in education. So it's also a way to permit. I think is a conceptual perspective.
Quickly, as we have a lot to do to create the infrastructure for artists to bloom and generate this new economy, what are the first 3 things that we should make sure we have in Armenia as a sort of the platform to start from? Anyone wants to take this? The first things we should do for the art economy to really have a strong foot.
I think first education. Start maybe also I mean, maybe not in a formal education, better at the university, but if a university is not ready, also a private foundation could. I mean, also AGBU can play a role, because sometimes it starts when you are forward to promote and then you spread it. Like this kind of initiative, I mean, started from two private initiatives and is really fantastic. So it's a way to start to push the border and then follow.
Number two, what would be like the essential ingredients so that we really look at the arts as an economy and get it going?
I mean, my background is in business, so I would look at it from supply and demand. So I think supply is what she mentioned, what Alessia mentioned already, is the education, making sure that you have artists that are creating and are being artistic, and on the other hand, you also need consumption of it, right? In order to make sure that more artists are kind of attracted to create, and I think that demand side, the consumption side, it was already mentioned, we should look beyond Armenia, because Armenia is small, so I think in that sense the cooperation and creating the links and leveraging more, probably also the diaspora component that we have, but also using the momentum, because Armenia is quite popular because of the recent things that happened. So I think we should really use that momentum in bringing and making sure that we kind of the creative and culture and the arts get.
So let me build on this and ask you if you know of countries that have a similar profile to Armenia, an emerging economy by its size, also the fact that it's highly cultural, has a 99% literacy level, really healthy number of artists in all domains that have actually made this leap into the creative industry. Do you have countries that we could think about as an inspiration for Armenia, a model to sort of learn from?
That's really a lot of filters.
It is too many filters.
No, not from the arts perspective, but I can think of Israel.
Okay.
That has used, really going back again to the example that I gave earlier, the startup ecosystem. They're really kind of creating this. I'm not sure, so I'll leave it to someone. Not sure.
I'm not sure, just because Fabio mentioned before Dubai. I'm not sure if it's possible to compare. I have an experience because I went to Dubai twice last year, and I get to know the cultural scene. What I learned, I see that they started with ambition, with funding to build many infrastructure, and they create, at least in Dubai, this area, Arsenal Avenue, which is a hub with galleries. They provide beautiful space. So for gallery is a district, and most of the galleries are also international, so they attract other gallery, another branch. There is this district also with a private museum. Because there is the Salsali Private Museum, which is a private initiative from an Iranian collector. So it's a way they try to attract and to develop. And they also have a fair, a contemporary art fair in Dubai and close in Abu Dhabi. I don't know, I think from my point of view when I went there, it was very good, this initiative, but they are still starting. Also because around is missing this concept of culture. I mean, comparing, living in Italy, comparing to Italy, I mean, is full of cinema, theater. Culture is important and is really part of our culture. Instead, there is this hub, and is still to develop. But at least maybe the government plays active role with an investment.
I think overall, just very quickly. Just very quickly. I think overall the right word is the infrastructure. In the sense, infrastructure means everybody that has been present in these 2 days. So insurance companies, there is, as I know, there is no insurance company in Armenia with a specific department in fine arts. Logistic companies, when we were looking for who could handle our artworks in Armenia, we only found one company that actually was the same company that took care of the exhibition at the Metropolitan, which was here, and they had a bit of experience. We need more, of course. Art appraisals, auction houses, so this infrastructure needs to be created. And I think each and one of these aspects have to be analyzed separately. Not necessarily we need to do one after the other, but we can try to see how, I mean, Israel is already working on it. Regulation side, I had a conversation 4 months ago with the central bank about how we could use this opportunity to speak to them as well, to see how we could implement, because of course Armenia is looking a lot towards EU. So the regulation, the European Union is working very actively here. So they're looking at our regulation. So what are the gaps here and how we could implement them into the Armenian regulation. So all these things can be done contemporary, I mean at the same time, sorry.
Thank you. Anna, were you thinking of a model, you said?
Yeah. An example that, following those criteria that you mentioned, Slovenia actually has sort of an interesting case study because they are on a similar scale. I think they actually have something like 2 million people, and they also, nature-wise, there's sort of a parallel. I mean, they have these beautiful mountains, and they really push that in terms of their tourism sector, and they've had a really big boom in the creative industries, particularly in the tech sector, but also in terms of the arts, in literature. So they have aligned themselves with some goals by the European Union, and they're part of this network called Creative Europe. And they were, I think, awarded like the book capital of Europe maybe last year, something like that. But I think that you mentioned this, Fabio, the presence of international organizations like the EU in Armenia is really an advantage because they are organizations that allow us to coordinate policies here with the rest of the world. And as we are trying to establish kind of standards that are, cross-border standards, these types of organizations' role in shaping that culture is really essential to creating the best environment to pull out what is already latent in that kind of local culture.
Thank you. I wanted to, okay, Israel.
Also, listening to panelists, especially Fabio about Dubai example, and the base, which I agree with you, which Dubai had no base, there is a base here at least,
Yes.
whether it's strong or not. And what I thought about also that we need, and the promotion that you mentioned, which is great. And I think the base is what's happening today in New York, the Armenia exhibition. That's how it should be promoted, because past creates future, which was promoted in present time. We need to have exhibitions of that caliber in other places as well, and to promote our classical period as well, because present is built based on past. I believe if Italy didn't have Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, they could not have Pistoletto, Manzoni, Vito Acconci. It's past helps the future.
Absolutely. Actually, to build on that example, because when I ask the questions, I also think of how I would answer myself. I wanted to bring the example of Spain and Bilbao. And it has been so transformational that now they refer to as the Bilbao effect, because the museum, the Guggenheim in Bilbao, when it was decided to build there, it was an area that was very poor economically. That was actually the place for a lot of unrest because there was a strong separatist movement and terrorist activities with the Basque country. And people thought, are you crazy to put a museum of that caliber, an architecture by Giri, right? It might be vandalized, attacked, but nothing of that sort happened. And on the contrary, it created stability, peace, and brought millions of tourists in a place where, when we would talk about it, people wouldn't know how to place it geographically. So the art of architecture and star architects who can actually mobilize people's attention. The new movement of private museum. We have a very wealthy diaspora. So why shouldn't we also think of bringing in Armenia, and we have so much construction going on, to have our own Bilbao effect. So on this, I want to open the floor to questions.
Can I just add one, because if I may take the liberty of taking away some of the conditions that you said in giving an example. Another example that came out of our research was also in China, very similar in Beijing. I think it's 798, the district. And it was also opened up maybe like 18 years ago, I think in 2000 or 2005. When it was actually, they opened up a museum in an old electronics factory. So it was a factory, it was not an alt culture space. And then, I mean, 10, 15 years down the road, it's one of the most prestigious areas, full of, galleries, museums. And it has also attracted, in the beginning it attracted kind of the artists to go and live there, but now it has really booked into becoming a very nice area too.
We have plenty of empty factories, by the way.
That's why I think it's a worthwhile example.
Yes. Questions? Over there? No. Are we ready for the questions? Yes? We wait. Okay. Oh, the mic. The vase, and then we'll come here. Okay.
Thank you for this very interesting discussion. There are a lot of questions, but I'll limit myself to one or two. My question goes to Lilia and also to the representatives of the Shaula Foundation. I wonder, because you're working with local artists, I wonder what are the criteria that, based on which you choose which artists to represent, which artists to promote, and whenever you choose an artist, let's say, what is it that they can actually get out of the cooperation, and how actually can they be presented abroad through your help? Thank you.
Yes, well, I mean, in our case, it's a very specific situation right now. I mean, we started with this International Contemporary Art Exhibition, and I don't know if I heard correctly, Shaula is an LLC, it's not a foundation. ICAE will hopefully soon be a foundation, ICA, sorry. For this exhibition, it was the project that we tried to implement had a dual aspect. So one part of the project called Soundlines of Contemporary Art included and involved artists that are already worldwide known. So artists that have exhibited in Guggenheim, Metropolitan, Biennale of Venice, and so on. The other part of the project was an open call. So there was a possibility to apply online for a few months, and then the team based in Italy, actually the curatorial team, Mazda Faisian and our Armenian curator Marina Hakobian, they did a selection based on their, let's say, curatorial aspects, which I would not be the best one to answer, but they have tried to see how this part of the exhibition could fit within their general curatorial, let's say, concept. In terms of future ways of cooperating with local artists, well, of course, we are very interested in proceeding this path. We are looking to continue with ICAE, and our idea is to replicate the concept. And the concept is not only the exhibition, the concept is to try to have a full interaction between the local talent and the international expertise. So all our artists that were here were working together with young students and young artists from different artistic institutes. Some of the artists did workshops in some institutes. So this is how we're trying to support the, let's say, the students and the arts in Armenia.
When it comes to AGBU, I can share a bit about the process. So there are a number of ways that we work with artists and we support them. One of them is basically based on individual requests that an artist is requesting, depends whatever they need, and sometimes those requests are tolerated, or that we accept the request and then we try to help publish a book, or maybe go and be present at an exhibition. The other one is that our curator, Anna, we have the exhibition space where we are doing the exhibitions. And again, depending on the theme or her freedom actually to see what are the artists that need the exposure that will benefit by being exposed in a space, we provided the opportunity to have an individual exhibition or be part of an exhibition. Going forward, we have conducted research in the creative and cultural industries in understanding how can we, in a more holistic way, actually work in this field. Also trying to be forward-looking and basically facilitating more the exchange between the creative industry and also the high-tech sector. So.
Yeah, thank you for the discussion and in general in this initiative, because this is a really great initiative and very important for us as a representative of the cultural and creative industry, and the founder and the artistic director of Arte Performing Arts Festival, which is connected with contemporary art genres, everything connected with hybrid art, crossovers, performance art, and so on. This is just a comment, not a question, but I would love to see in these initiatives government people, mainly from Ministry of Culture, because they are absolutely not aware of this kind of problems, I'm sure. This is pity, really, because till now, even after the revolution, Ministry of Culture thinks that they should control everything, and these initiatives would be a very good place for them to understand that they are not right. Actually, this is an issue for us, for cultural practitioners. We have no foundations here in Armenia to apply for. This is dangerous, really. I mean, whatever you want to do, you cannot apply to any foundation to get money to do that. And this is connected also with our government, with our representatives of Ministry of Culture. So I urge you, please invite them. Please. Thank you.
Deputy Minister of Culture was here yesterday, participated in a panel, and we reached out also to Business Armenia because they are really the foundation that is doing business collaboration and cooperation. So for this panel, however, they were very keen and would have really liked to be here, but there is also the component of having someone that is or has been kind of dealing in the cooperation from a cultural perspective, and they're working on that. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Actually, would be even for us as AGBU to write some kind of a end of project report, and we could share this with the different ministries. That would be a good idea. Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed even in the deputy minister's comments yesterday, he was saying, well, that's connected to the Ministry of Education. That's not my department. And I think this goes back to our issue of cooperation, is that it's important that the ministries amongst themselves also, that they start cooperating more, because the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Culture, they should be having overlaps. So but we are all responsible in this ecosystem, so it is our responsibility also to try and maybe create some kind of a platform where we can exchange and invite them, maybe some kind of third party. I don't know, now I'm just kind of blurbing random ideas, but...
If I may, when I mentioned at the beginning promotion, of course it's important internationally, but when I mean promotion, it means even that for, I'm sure, other reasons, not everybody we invited was here today, but we should promote even more internally to when these initiatives happened, more and more people have to come. So it's even about all of us here today that should promote, as Anna was saying, after the report will be out, to show it. I think we are live on the events page, so this can be shared and eventually other people can attend and see it.
Thank you. Tina?
Okay, this has been a fantastic 2 days. I feel that, thank you for the panels, thank you for the speaker, thank you for Anna for organizing all of this. But I feel like this has been a teaser. Now, the wine industry has taken off. It's on its own, it's going places. The art industry is taking off starting today. I just feel that a couple of words that come to mind is, that we all repeated every 10 sentences was collaboration, collaboration. And what I'm wondering is, where is a database of all of this? How can we create a database or a closed group or an open group to see if we can all communicate with each other? Since the wine industry has taken off, the art industry can take off. The energy, the momentum is here. I just feel with the Italians coming, this has been a gift. All the panels, US is here telling us about the latest cutting edge industry that's happening that we want to be part of. How can we keep this going? And what is next? What do we do next? Maybe start getting everybody's emails, putting a database together, start the conversation going, help each other. I know Fabio has learned so much by being here, and we don't want to be making the same mistakes. So we want to learn from you, and we want to definitely include the government to be here. This is it's very surprising to me that they are not here. This is an entirely a great gift that we're giving to Yerevan. I'm here from Boston and trying my best to assist or be part of this impact here. So let's keep it going and let us collaborate, really collaborate, start a database and, sorry? Yeah. Yeah.
How about curacy, right?
Yeah, currency, 100%. We can do something, but we don't have unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructure that Facebook has with messaging. So that's the kind of the thing is Facebook has these groups. That's the best way to keep in touch. I do have an alter ego profile, so I can participate. I just have like a weird alien name, so just know that it's me. But I also had an idea just when you mentioned about wine. I've heard a lot of people talking about the wine here. I also have tried the wine. It's delicious. And one of the newest things happening in Southern California right now is a lot of festivals combining different senses. They combine music with food. We just had one in Long Beach called Music Tastes Good, and it has chefs from international chefs paired with music. This is getting really popular, and I talked to some people here, and I've heard that Armenian jazz is pretty amazing. Why not do a wine, jazz, art festival? People would come from all over to see that. Wine tourism is huge, so there are ways to combine what you already have here into something really awesome. And you have beautiful nature, make it on Lake Savan or some of these beautiful old places. People would definitely want to go see that. And then get your curators here, your artists, combining all of it at once. Anyway, just saying.
So would you make a new platform special for Armenia?
You know, I think you have an awesome tech center here, which I'm hoping to get to meet some of them tomorrow. So I'll talk to you and talk to people and see if there could be some kind of platform just for ideas, because it's not hard to build something small like that, and you have developers, so we could make something, right?
You've given us about like 5 different business ideas
Sorry,
in one day. It's great.
Just, like that kind of stuff. So anyway,
but this is actually something that even Tomai was saying yesterday in her presentation. Unfortunately, she's not here with us now because she has some kind of a food poisoning. So we're very, sad that she's not on this panel today with us. But she was talking very much about wellness as a new wave of luxury. And because, again, we're talking about a small community and, a small kind of demand, right? If we're thinking of this sort of supply and demand chain, but if we can do something very niche, very custom made, and if we can offer cultural tourism that is quite unique, that is, wine, jazz, and art, or maybe something a little bit different, so that we can really bring in those collectors, those potential investors, so that it's not just money, but it's smart money. It's money that's coming from a very kind of keen sort of cultural background. So I just wanted to make that connection because she's not here today, but I'll stop talking, and if there are any more questions, I would love to hear them.
Hello friends, my name is Petro Pogosyan. I'm an Armenian watercolor artist and affiliated with some organizations. So one of them is IWS, International Watercolor Society, and GAVA, Global Association for Watercolor Artists. The one is about 1 year, the last one, GAVA, and the IWS is about 7 or 8 years it's working, and now it's a rather serious international organizations, and it become an organization with just really, I'm not joking, with just a Facebook group conversations, so about 7 or 8 people with the efforts of one man from Turkey who loved very much watercolor art, and from America, our colleague from NWS, National Watercolor Society, current season, and so on, some like people like this. So I want to say that we have a very, very strong lack of this online system in Armenia. So and I'm trying with my Facebook also activities and some other activities to mention that we need to take this experience of abroad. I mean, to show online very effective and in a right way, in a clear way, some artworks and some groups. It's a rather serious thing. So you maybe heard about, I like very much the experience of Fine Art Studio Online, FASO. You have heard about it, for sure. Artist Network, so in American. It's a rather large platform with bold brush painting competition with Raymar. Yes, you have heard about for sure.
I'm not sure.
It's professional oil and watercolor competitions from all over the world. It's with a rather little money. I mean, the system is working like no one need to sponsor from government and so on. You just, for example, just several thousand people, artists, professional and not so on, and so not so much, so semi-professionals, professionals, take part in that because they think they will gain an award and they will be noticed. So, and they give, for example, $7, $10. They started from like this, yes, from this smart, and so it becomes several awards, and they give an award, and it become working. So some like this, some sponsorship like this, yes. Yeah. A lot of people give some $1 and it comes from 10 people or from 20 people, so with honorable mentions, with award and so on. So it really works. I've think about this for a lot of time. So it works great in Europe, in America, in the world. So it will work in Armenia also, I think. And we can take this experience and make it here. So try to manage it here. Now I'm thinking about that. So it's, I think, very interesting to also work online. I mean, to show online really hard-working artists, so something like this.
I'm not sure if you were here earlier and did you see my presentation or?
No, sorry,
okay,
no.
So that is basically what I
okay.
talk about.
It's
Yeah.
like,
so
yes.
I have an online platform. I'm happy to give you my
so
card.
I'm repeating
after.
you, sorry.
Yeah. So we can talk afterwards. We have a lot of artists. They post their work and then people tip them. So it's a way to help people to earn money off the digital image.
In one first said that it must be no fraud, because there are some frauds. I haven't seen that, but there are fraud organizations also. But there are real organizations, as I have mentioned, that really work very serious. And we have exhibited several times in China also, and it was IWS have a huge support from China government after these several years of making, promoting art, presenting art, and some artists. And so China is a great place to be, to show. So
Thank
nice.
you. We have one more question.
Well, it's both remarks and questions. I've been here since 2009. And when I got here in Armenia from France, never been here before, never heard of Armenia before. And I just accidentally came into Cascade, which was still under work. And I was like, what is this place? And then a few months later, my parents came and I said, oh, I need to take you to an amazing place. I have no idea what it is, but it's just so incredible. And Cascade was open. I was like, wow. Seeing boteros and all these pieces of art. And I'm like, did this make any kind of impact? I have no clue. But I mean, it was one of the, to me, a very strong, private, yeah, but something that for a country like Armenia, such a tiny country, but such a big step into showing art, even if it was not from local artists, but it already gave me a different perception of a country as opening to a lot of cultural activities. And I've been around, like seeing now, being more involved into knowing artists, and I'm just amazed about, yes, the richness of the artists. Not even talking about the base of the so rich base of cultural that you have into music and dances and everything. But so I'm totally supporting Tina, because I think what we or Armenians maybe are missing, they sometimes just let things go, and if we don't take action, we'll just have the same symposium in a year, and maybe things won't have progressed so much. Armenia has, and even having been away for a few months, when I came back and I discovered Impact Hub and all these new things, they're just amazing. You have nothing to be, you're as good as initiatives that you see in the States, in France now. So it's, yeah, I would agree also, it's really about promoting Armenia and Armenian artists around the world. But we, yeah, from here, we are representing different types of cultures who have in-depth maturity of artists, culture and artists. We need to put all this together to collaborate and to make things happen. So
this is actually, I think, a nice way to bring our panel to closure, which is on the word of collaboration that, Tina, you said we mentioned many times, but it's a real thing. And it's not just people on this stage, but all of us. So again, like the young man said, it doesn't take much to create that database. So even with one spot that now Natalia is giving us in her environment, that could be a great way of aggregating all the artists with examples of their works right there. So instead of having a very plain database with names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, which is kind of a dead database, can I just propose to hijack a little spot in your environment? All right.
You can use hashtags too on our site, so you can use AGBU. Sorry.
Just say hi,
Yeah, so our site uses hashtags the same way as Instagram, so we could create a hashtag and I can work with you, and basically any artist or musician, writer from Armenia wants to post their work, use that hashtag. You just click that hashtag, you'll see all of the results of Armenian art in the search, and then people... we can decide what it is. It can even just be Armenian art or Armenia or something, just anything like that. And that way we can, and we also do weekly interviews. So I've already asked, I want to interview you, Anna, and I'd happily interview all of you. So we send it out every week to our group, and that's a way to promote, let people know what is going on here, what they can expect to see when they come here, what the experiences are.
I think we could think of the model of Wikipedia, where it's crowd creativity and input. So instead of thinking of somebody saying, I'm collecting the database, send me your info, what I propose is that all of our talent here go to Natalia's website.
That would be awesome. Also,
register, show your work, and in a way that all of us can also zoom on talents from Armenia or Armenian, because we are quite a lot around the planet. So it could be a good way for us to meet I don't pronounce your site name very well. Can you say it?
It's currency, like money, currency, like.
Okay.
But it's spelled CURENSEA.
That's why I'm having.
Like curated sea of art.
Okay.
And we also have that promo code AGBU. If you go to buy coins, put that in, you'll get 250 free coins. You don't have to buy anything. It's free to sign up. Always.
So
free.
you get 250 coins right away. And you can also record and give likes to your artist friends. So I guess the database has started, right? Because I see you with your phones. Get on the site, and that's it. So we can build this up very quickly. Great suggestion to both of you. Thank you.
Let me ask you something. There is an email list here, right? People say, can you email them the information? It might be easier so they can contact.
Yeah.
We would be happy to follow up, because we have all of your contacts. We would be happy to follow up with a sort of post-event. I don't know if post-event press release is really the right term, but sort of highlights of what key points that were discussed, and sort of turn all this information into a report that we would. It would be great if we could actually share that with government and sort of take this to the next level. So.
I kept something from your presentation this morning, Natalia. The difference between Natalia's site and the one of Facebook, and tell me if I learned well, is that instead of the wealth going to Mark Zuckerberg, it will go to all the artists. Am I right? So the coins that you distribute and you buy, which are very, very small fraction of money, by bringing attention, you're basically creating an economy of attention. So you bring attention on different artists, and by doing that, you're becoming a curator, so you get a small piece of the money that is now put in circulation. So you're being paid as an artist and as a curator. And you're giving money and you're receiving money. Yes? But if you want to make it more clear, please, Natalia, add.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. We sell, so the way that our site makes money is that we sell bundles of tokens. We take $1 up front on the packages of tokens. That's how we earn money to run the site, to pay for hosting and pay for development work. And then all the rest of the money goes to the artists. But you get to decide how much you give and to which art pieces. And you can't share or comment on anything unless you tip it. So tipping is connected with engagement with the art piece. So if you see an art piece, you love it, you want to say, this is great, I love it, you give it 5 cents, 10 cents, $1, whatever you can afford, that goes straight to the artist. And if you curate a feed and people tip what you're sharing because you're finding all the coolest Armenian art and people are following Armenian art because you're sharing it, you get 10%. So you can earn money both by curating and by posting, and the money just goes around, yeah. It's pretty fun. It kind of feels like a game sometimes because it's such small amounts, but it adds up.
The more we are, the more it adds up.
So on that note, I would like to thank everyone for coming. I would like to thank all of our panelists. Let's please give them a warm round of applause for their time, their expertise. I would like to thank our moderators, Jacqueline Karaaslanian, Aramas Kalaijan, who was here earlier. Maybe he's head off, but thank you to them as well. On behalf of AGBU Armenia, thank you for being a part of this great brainstorming. Thank you to our partners, Shaula International, for this opportunity. And for connecting us to your network of Italian experts. It's been really wonderful, and we will stay in touch, so we'll continue in the future. Thank you.